in the heart of Whispering Woods, where sunbeams danced through the leaves, lived a brave little lion cub named Zarrow. With his golden fur and amber eyes, Zarrow dreamed of being the guardian of the entire forest. His best friend was a tiny grey mouse named Raffi, who, despite his small size, had a mind brimming with big ideas. Raffi loved to solve puzzles and invent things, always thinking before he acted, which was a perfect balance to Zarrow's adventurous spirit. One afternoon, the sky turned a dark, moody grey. Rain began to fall, first as a gentle pitter-patter, and then as a thunderous downpour. The once calm river that flowed through the woods swelled and raged, its waters churning with angry brown waves. Zarrow and Raffi, taking shelter under a large mushroom, watched as the river grew wilder and more dangerous. Suddenly, a faint cry for help reached their ears. Peering through the rain, they saw a small figure stranded in the middle of the torrent. It was Tina, the wise old turtle, trapped on a rock that was slowly being swallowed by the rising water. She looked small and helpless against the powerful current. Without a second thought, Zarrow's heart filled with courage. "I have to save her!" He roared, his voice barely audible over the storm. He crouched down, ready to leap into the furious river. "Wait, Zarrow," squeaked Raffi, grabbing onto his friend's tail. "It's too dangerous. The current is too strong, even for a brave lion like you. We need a plan." But Zarrow was too focused on the rescue. "There's no time for a plan, Raffi. Tina needs help now." He shook his tail free and, with a mighty leap, plunged into the cold, rushing water. The river was stronger than he had imagined. It pushed and pulled him, spinning him around like a fallen leaf. He fought hard, paddling with all his might, but he was making no progress toward Tina. He was being swept downstream, away from the rock Zarrow. Raffi cried, his heart pounding with fear. He watched his friend struggle, and he knew he had to do something fast. His big blue eyes darted around, searching for a solution. He wasn't strong like Zarrow, but his mind was his greatest tool. Saw a long, sturdy vine hanging from an old tree that stretched over the river. An idea sparked in his clever mind. "The vine, Zarrow! Grab the vine!" Raffi shouted. He'd scampered up the tree, his tiny claws digging into the bark. He began to chew frantically at the base of the vine. It was tough, but Raffi didn't give up. He chewed and chewed until, with a final snap, the long vine fell, swinging just above the water's surface. Zarrow, exhausted and struggling, saw the vine swinging toward him. With the last of his strength, he reached up and grabbed it. He held on tight as the vine swung him back toward the riverbank, where he collapsed, shivering and soaked. "You were right," Raffi Zarrow panted, looking at his small friend with newfound respect. "I was brave, but I wasn't smart. I almost got swept away." Raffi scurried down the tree and patted Zarrow's wet paw. "It's okay, Zarrow, your bravery is amazing. But Tina is still in trouble. Now, let's use our heads and our hearts." They looked back at the river. The rock Tina was on was almost completely underwater. They had to act quickly. Raffi's mind went to work again. He remembered seeing a fallen log upstream, wedged between two large rocks. "Zarrow, I have another idea. Remember that big log we saw earlier? We can push it into the river. It might float down to Tina and act as a bridge." Zarrow's eyes lit up. "That's a brilliant idea, Raffi." This time, he listened. Together, they raced to the log. Using his lion strength, pushed with all his might. Raffi, small but determined, found a smaller branch and used it as a lever, pushing against a rock to help move the heavy log. "Push, Zarrow! Push!" He squeaked, with a great groan and a final shove. The log tumbled into the river. It bobbed and turned in the current, but just as Raffi had predicted, it began to float downstream, directly toward Tina's rock. It gently bumped against the stone, creating a makeshift bridge to the safety of the riverbank. Slowly and carefully, Tina crawled off her sinking rock and onto the log. She walked across the floating bridge, her movements calm and steady, until she reached the shore. Zaro and Raffi rushed to her side. "Oh, thank you, my brave little friends," Tina said, her voice warm and full of gratitude. She looked at Zaro. "Your strength is a great gift, little lion." Then she turned to Raffi. "And your wisdom is just as precious, little mouse." She smiled gently at both of them. "Today, you learned a very important lesson. Strength is powerful, but when guided by wisdom, it becomes unstoppable. Together, you saved me." As the rain softened and the river began to calm, a beautiful, glowing blue butterfly appeared. It was Flora, the silent guide of the forest. She didn't speak, but she circled above Zaro and Raffi, her wings shimmering with a soft, comforting light. For Reg, it was her way of saying they had done well. Zaro looked at Raffi and smiled. "You were the real hero today, Raffi. Your plan saved all of us." Raffi shook his head. "No, Zaro, we were heroes together. Your strength moved the log, and my idea showed it where to go." From that day on, Zaro the lion and Raffi the mouse were more than just best friends. They were a team. Zaro learned to think before he leaped, and Raffi learned that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is trust a clever idea. They understood that true courage wasn't just about rushing into danger. It was about facing challenges with both a strong heart and a smart mind, side by side. And together, they were ready for any adventure the Whispering Woods had in store.